October 17th, 1853, Alabama. They called it the Growing House until the blueprints proved it impossible. This isn't folklore. The Talladega County deed records, the Alabama State Archives, and 3 separate census surveys all confirm it. Between 1853 and 1889, the Crowbury family home in rural Alabama gained a new room after every death in the family, even though no builders were ever hired, no materials delivered, and no one saw construction. The house didn't just mourn, it expanded. It began on October 17, 1853, with the death of Eleanor Crowbury, the family matriarch. She was 68, a widow, and the owner of 200 acres of cotton land near the Coosa River. Her son, Silas Crowbury, found her in her bed at dawn, peaceful, eyes closed, hands folded over a family Bible. The doctor called it natural causes, but when Silas returned that evening to lock the house, he found something that made his blood run cold. A new door stood where none had been before. It was in the west hallway, between the parlor and the dining room. A simple wooden door, painted the same white as the walls with a brass knob. Silas had lived in this house since 1829. He knew every inch. There had never been a door there. He opened it. Behind it was a small room, 10 by 12 feet, furnished with a narrow bed, a wash basin, and a single window. The walls were freshly plastered, the floorboards unwarped. It smelled of pine resin and wet clay. On the bed lay a folded black morning dress, Eleanor's size. Silas ran to the county clerk the next day. He demanded to see the original house plans. The 1831 Crowbury deed, filed at the Talladega Courthouse, Record Book D, page 88, clearly showed a 12-room house. Now, there were 13. The clerk, Thomas W. Hale, wrote in the margin, "Owner claims new room appeared after mother's death." No permits filed. No labor observed. Room matches period style. Impossible but verified. Silas tried to ignore it. He held Eleanor's funeral, buried her in the family plot behind the house. But that night he heard hammering, not loud, not frantic, just steady. Tap, tap, tap. Like a carpenter working slowly in the dark. He grabbed a lantern and searched the house. Every door was closed, every window shut. But the air in the west hallway was damp, and the new door was slightly ajar. Inside, the room was empty, except for a single black feather on the pillow. The Crowburys were not superstitious people. They were farmers, churchgoers, respected in Talladega County. Silas's wife Martha told him it was grief. His sister Lydia said it was a trick of the light. But then Lydia died. It happened on March 3rd, 1855. Pneumonia. She was 34, buried beside Eleanor. The next morning, Silas found another door, this time in the upstairs hallway. Behind it, a child's room, though Lydia had no children. On the small bed, a porcelain doll with one eye missing. This time, Silas didn't go to the clerk. He went to Reverend Elias Boone of the Talladega Methodist Church. The Reverend visited the house on March 5th. He prayed. He blessed the rooms. He even slept in the new room that night. At 3:11 a.m., he woke to the sound of nails being driven into wood. He left at dawn and never returned. In his church journal, now held at the Alabama Department of Archives, he wrote, "The house is not haunted. It is hungry, and it feeds on grief." In 1856, a traveling carpenter named Jedediah Pike stayed at the Crowbury house for one night. He left at sunrise, pale and shaking. His diary, found in a Montgomery attic in 1921, reads, "Counted 14 rooms at dusk, 15 at dawn. The new one had no door. Just a wall that opened when I looked away." Imagine you're standing in that west hallway at night. The house is silent. Then tap, tap, tap from inside the wall. You press your ear to the plaster. The sound stops. But when you step back, the door is open, and the room inside smells like fresh earth and something older. On April 12, 1856, Silas Crowbury vanished. His horse was found tied to the porch, his boots by the door. But in the house, the census taker counted 16 rooms, though only 3 people had lived there. And in the newest room on the bed lay Silas's pocket watch. Still ticking, April 13, 1856, Alabama. When Silas Crowbury vanished on April 12, 1856, the house didn't stop growing. It kept building. By dawn the next day, Martha Crowbury, Silas's widow, woke to find 2 new doors where none had been before. One led to a study with empty bookshelves. The other opened into a nursery with a cradle that rocked on its own. Neither room had existed the night before. Martha was alone now. Her husband was gone, her sister-in-law dead, her mother-in-law buried, and the house was alive. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She did what any practical Alabama woman of 1856 would do. She counted the rooms. The original house, built in 1831, had 12 rooms, confirmed by the Talladega County deed, Book D, page 88. After Eleanor's death in 1853, 13 rooms. After Lydia's death in 1855, 14 rooms. After Silas vanished in 1856, 16 rooms, 2 deaths. 2 rooms. But Silas hadn't died. He'd disappeared. Yet the house counted him as gone. Martha wrote in her journal, recovered in 1932 during a house inspection and now held at the Alabama Department of Archives and History. April 13th, 1856. The house knows. It doesn't wait for a coffin. It waits for absence. When Silas didn't come home, the walls began to breathe. By midnight, I heard sawing. Not outside, inside the walls. Like the house was cutting itself open to make space. For his grief, she tried to leave. She packed a small bag, hitched the mule to the wagon, and drove toward Talladega town. But 3 miles down the road, the mule stopped. It refused to go farther. When Martha looked back, she saw smoke rising from the Crowbury chimney. Though she'd left no fire burning, she returned at dusk. That night, she heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. Not hammering, but nailing. Slow, deliberate, coming from the attic. She climbed the stairs with a kerosene lamp. The attic door, old, warped, never used, was slightly open. Inside, the air was thick with sawdust, and in the far corner, a new wall was being built, not by hands, not by tools. The planks were sliding into place on their own, as if pulled by invisible strings. Nails drove themselves into the wood with soft thunks. Martha backed away. As she did, the lamp flickered. In the dim light, she saw something on the floor, a child's shoe. Small, leather, covered in red clay from the Coosa River banks. But the Crowburys had no children. The next morning, she went to Sheriff Elias Trammell of Talladega County, in office 1854-1860. She told him everything. The sheriff, a no-nonsense man who'd dealt with horse thieves and river pirates, agreed to investigate. He brought 2 deputies and a carpenter named Jedediah Pike, the same man who'd stayed at the house in 1856 and fled at dawn. They arrived at noon. Sheriff Trammell counted the rooms himself. 16. He checked windows, doors, foundations. No signs of recent construction. No sawdust outside. No tool marks. Then Jedediah Pike pointed to the west wall of the parlor. "That wasn't here last time," he whispered. The sheriff knocked on it. Solid. But when he pressed his ear to the wood, he heard breathing. That night, the sheriff and 1 deputy stayed in the house. Jedediah refused. "I've seen what grows in the dark," he said. At 3:11 a.m., the deputy screamed. Sheriff Trammell found him in the hallway, pointing at the nursery door. "It opened by itself," the deputy gasped. "And the cradle?" It was full. They searched the room. The cradle was empty, but the sheets were warm. And on the pillow lay 3 black feathers, arranged in a triangle. The next day, the sheriff filed a report. Talladega County Sheriff's Log. April 14th, 1856. Investigated Crowbury house. No evidence of foul play. Owner claims rooms appear after deaths. Observed no construction, however. House feels wrong. Air too still. Smell of wet earth indoors. Recommend family relocate. Note, Deputy J. Miller resigned same day. Said he won't sleep under a roof that builds itself. Martha didn't relocate. She couldn't. Every time she tried to leave, the road seemed longer. The mule turned back. Once, she walked 5 miles on foot, only to find herself back at the porch steps by dawn. The house wouldn't let her go. In May 1856, Martha sent a letter to her cousin in Montgomery. "If I don't write again, check the attic. The new room has no door. It opens when you stop looking." The letter was postmarked May 3rd. No more letters came. Picture yourself standing in that attic, lamp in hand. The air is thick with sawdust. The walls are moving. You turn to leave, and the door slams shut behind you. But when you look back, the wall where the door was has vanished. There's only wood, and the sound of nails driving themselves into your coffin. On June 1st, 1856, a neighbor reported smoke from the Crowbury chimney for 3 days straight. though no one was seen entering or leaving. When the sheriff finally forced the door open on June 4th, the house was empty. No Martha, no furniture. But the room count? 17, and in the center of the newest room, a single wedding ring lay on the floor, engraved with the name Martha Crowbury. She had never worn one. June 5th, 1856. When Sheriff by Trammell found the Crowbury house empty on June 4th, 1856, he assumed Martha had finally escaped. He was wrong. The next morning, a farmer named Eli Whitmore saw smoke rising from the chimney again. He rode to the house and knocked. No answer. But the front door was unlocked. Inside, the air was cold, though it was June in Alabama, and the smell of wet earth filled every room, and the house had 18 rooms. Someone, or something, had added another room while the sheriff slept. Eli searched the house. In the newest room, a small library with empty shelves, he found Martha's journal open on a desk. The last entry was dated June 3rd, 1856. Doesn't need bodies. It needs names. Last night I said Silas's name out loud. Just once. Where are you, Silas? The walls answered. By dawn, the new room was finished. It's not building for the dead. It's building for the forgotten. And I'm next. Eli took the journal to the sheriff. Trammell read it in silence, then ordered the house sealed. He nailed boards over the doors and windows. He posted a notice, condemned, unsafe structure. But on June 10th, the boards were gone. The doors stood open, and smoke rose from the chimney once more. The house was waiting. Foreshadowing from Part 2 had come true. Martha's letter to her cousin mentioned the attic room that opens when you stop looking. Now, locals whispered that if you stared at the Crowbury house too long, a new window would appear, just for you. Then came Reverend Josiah Pike, not to be confused with the carpenter Jedediah Pike. Josiah was a traveling Baptist preacher known for cleansing haunted places. He arrived in Talladega on June 15, 1856, after hearing rumors. On June 17th, he walked to the Crowbury house alone. Bible in hand, he never came back. 3 days later, boys playing near the Coosa River found his preacher's coat floating in the water, soaked, torn, and covered in red clay. His Bible was inside the pocket, open to Ecclesiastes 12:7. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was. But the most chilling detail? The book's margins were filled with new handwriting, not the Reverend's. It read, "The house is the grave, the rooms are the coffins, and the walls. Remember every name." The handwriting matched Silas Crowbury's, who had vanished 2 months earlier. Imagine you're standing outside the Crowbury house at dusk. You count the windows, 12 on the first floor, 6 on the second. You look away to check your watch. When you look back, there are 13 downstairs. A new window glows with lamplight, and behind the glass a shadow moves. Locals stopped passing the house. Crops near the property withered. Even birds avoided the trees. But the house kept growing. On July 1st, 1856, Deputy Henry Lowe, the only officer willing to go near the place, reported a strange sight. He'd been patrolling the road at night when he saw lights in every window, though no one lived there. He counted the rooms from the road, 19, as he watched. A 20th window appeared on the east side, slowly. Like a wound opening in the wall, he fled. The final proof came from an unexpected source, the U.S. Census. In August 1856, census taker William H. Gray was assigned to Talladega County. He avoided the Crowbury property at first, but on August 12th, duty forced him to approach. He knocked. No answer. He stepped inside. In his official report, National Archives, Roll M432, Alabama, Talladega County, he wrote Crowbury House, occupants 0, rooms 20. Note, structure appears recently expanded. No signs of habitation, yet fire burning in hearth. Found fresh bread on kitchen table. Also, a child's drawing on wall of nursery depicts 21 rooms. House currently has 20, drawing dated tomorrow. The drawing was sketched in charcoal. It showed the house with a new wing, one that didn't exist yet. At the bottom, in a child's hand, for the next one. But the Crowburys had no children. In the attic, Gray found a locked chest. Inside, 20 small wooden boxes, each labeled with a Crowbury name. The 21st box was empty, except for a single black feather. On September 1st, 1856, The Talladega County Courthouse received a deed amendment for the Crowbury property, signed in elegant script by Silas Crowbury. The document stated, "The house shall grow until all are home." But Silas had been missing since April, and the ink smelled of river clay. September 2nd, 1856, Alabama. The deed amendment signed by Silas Crowbury should have been impossible. He'd vanished in April, no body, no letter, no trace. Yet on September 1st, 1856, the document arrived at the Talladega County Courthouse, delivered by no one, left on the clerk's desk at dawn. The ink was damp. The paper smelled of wet earth and river clay. And the signature, verified by 2 witnesses as Silas's own hand. But the real horror began that night. At exactly 3:11 a.m., the same hour deputies, preachers and neighbors had reported strange activity. The Crowbury house grew again. This time, it didn't just add a room. It added a wing. Locals saw it from the road. A new section of the house, 2 stories tall, with 3 windows and a sloped roof, rose from the east side like a bone breaking through skin. No sound. No dust, just there. By sunrise, the room count was 21, and inside the newest room on a plain wooden table sat 21 teacups, all filled with cold, clear water. No one had poured them. No one had entered. But the cups were arranged in a circle, as if waiting for a family dinner that would never end. Deputy Henry Lowe, the only lawman still willing to approach the property, rode out at noon. He didn't go inside. He just counted from the gate. 21 rooms. Then he noticed something worse. The family cemetery behind the house, where Eleanor, Lydia, and others were buried, had changed. A new headstone stood among the old ones. Carved from river stone, it read, "Silas Crowbury, 1802. 1856 he built his room, but Silas's body was never found, and the stone was warm to the touch, even in the September heat." Lowe reported it to Sheriff Trammell, who by now refused to go near the place. "That house ain't haunted," he told the Talladega Standard in a rare interview. "It's alive, and it's hungry for names." Then came Dr. Elias Green, a physician from Montgomery who studied spiritual afflictions. He arrived on September 10th, armed with notebooks, a camera, and a belief that everything had a natural cause. He stayed one night, at 3:11 a.m. His camera, left on a tripod in the parlor, took a photo by itself. The plate, developed days later in Montgomery, showed the empty room, and in the far corner a 20-second door slowly opening. Behind it, darkness, and a hand, pale and thin, reaching out. Dr. Green fled before dawn. In his journal, now at the Alabama Medical History Museum, he wrote, "The house doesn't wait for death. It creates it." I heard whispering in the walls, names over and over. "Martha, Silas, Lydia, then my name." I ran, but as I crossed the threshold, the front door closed behind me. Not by wind, by will. I only escaped because the house let me go, for now. Now imagine the locked door opening behind you and cold breath brushing your skin. You didn't turn the knob. No wind blew, but the air just moved, like something stepped out of the wall and stood inches from your neck. And in the silence you hear your own name, whispered from inside the walls. The house was no longer just a record of the dead. It was calling the living. On September 20th, a young boy named Thomas Reed, no relation to the Arkansas Reeds, dared his friends to touch the Crowbury gate. He did. As he pulled his hand back, the iron was ice cold, though the day was 90 degrees. That night, Thomas woke screaming that a man in black had stood at his window, holding a teacup. His parents moved away the next week. Then, on October 1st, the U.S. Postal Service stopped delivering mail to the Crowbury address. The postmaster wrote in his log, "No resident." But letters keep arriving, addressed in different hands. All say, "I'm coming home." The final witness was census taker William Gray, who returned in October out of duty. This time he brought a camera. He entered at 10 a.m., left at 10:03 a.m. in his report. He wrote only 3 lines. Rooms, 22, occupants 22, all seated at the table, drinking. He never took the photo. He never spoke of the house again, foreshadowing for Part 5. In the sheriff's final log entry, October 15th, 1856, he wrote, "If the house reaches 24 rooms, it will be complete. And it will stop growing, because it will have everyone." The Crowbury family tree had 24 known members in 1856. On November 1st, 1856, the Talladega County courthouse burned down in a mysterious fire. Most records were lost. But when the ashes cooled, one document remained untouched, the 1831 Crowbury deed. And someone had added in fresh ink, Room 23 for the Watcher. No one knew who the Watcher was. But that night, a new window appeared on the west side of the house, facing the road. And behind the glass, a face watched every passerby. After the courthouse fire on November 1st, 1856, Talladega County stopped pretending the Crowbury house was just a strange old building. It was something else, something that knew names, counted deaths, and built rooms for the missing. And now, with the words Room 23 for the Watcher added to the 1831 deed, everyone feared they knew who the Watcher was, anyone who looked too long. The house had 23 rooms. The Crowbury family tree had 24 members. One was still missing. On the morning of November 2nd, Farmer Eli Whitmore rode past the property at dawn. He didn't stop. He didn't look. But as he passed, he heard it, a child's voice, clear and soft, singing an old hymn. Come, ye sinners, poor and needy. He spurred his horse and didn't look back. But that night he found red clay on his boots, though his fields were dry, and the Coosa River was miles away. The house was reaching beyond its walls. Then came Sheriff Elias Trammell's last stand. Haunted by guilt and sleepless nights, the sheriff gathered what little courage he had left. On November 5th, he walked to the Crowbury house at sunset, shotgun in hand, Bible in his coat pocket. He didn't plan to fight. He planned to end it. He entered through the front door, unlocked, as always. The air inside was cold, still, and smelled of pine and damp earth. All 23 doors stood open. From each room came the sound of quiet breathing. He walked to the center of the house, the old parlor, and shouted, "This ends tonight." Silence. Then from the hallway, a voice answered. Martha's voice, soft and sad. It ended when we stopped counting the living. The sheriff fired into the air. The blast echoed through the house and was answered by 23 doors slamming shut at once. He ran for the front door. It was gone. In its place, a new wall, smooth and fresh with a single brass knob. He turned it. Behind it, Room 24, it was a dining room. A long table, 24 chairs, and in every seat, a figure in black, faces hidden in shadow. At the head of the table sat Silas Crowbury, pale but whole, holding a teacup. He looked at the sheriff and said, "You're late, but there's still a seat for you." The sheriff dropped his gun. He backed away. As he did, the floorboards beneath him shifted. A new door opened in the wall behind him, Room 25. But the family only had 24 members. This room wasn't for a Crowbury, it was for him. He fled. He ran all the way to Talladega, never looking back. The next day, he resigned as sheriff and left Alabama forever. His final log entry, dated November 6, 1856, reads, "The house doesn't just hold the dead. It collects the witnesses. And I've seen too much. If you read this, don't go there. Don't say their names. And whatever you do, don't count the rooms." But it was too late. Picture yourself watching the truth unfold, knowing it won't stop with them. It's already reached you. Because if the house collects witnesses, and you've read this far, whose name is carved on the 25th chair? The house kept growing. On November 10th, a traveler named James Lowell stopped at the Crowbury gate to ask for water. No one answered his knock. But as he turned to leave, the front door opened. Inside, a teacup sat on the porch step, filled with cold water. He drank it. That night, he dreamed of a room with his name on the door. He never woke up. His body was found in a Montgomery hotel on November 12th. Cause of death, heart failure. But his journal, recovered by police, ended with, "The house is calling. I must go home." He had no ties to Alabama. Then, on December 1st, the U.S. Census Office received a letter postmarked Talladega. It contained a single page, a new census entry for the Crowbury house. Occupants, 25 rooms, 25 status, all present. All accounted for. The handwriting matched Sheriff Trammell's, foreshadowing for Part 6. In the Alabama State Archives, a sealed file labeled "Crowbury Do Not Open" contains a map of the property drawn in 1857. It shows the house with 26 rooms. The 26th is labeled "For the Reader." On January 1st, 1857, the house fell silent. No smoke, no lights, no new rooms. Locals thought it was over. But when a surveyor measured the property in February, he found something impossible. The house now covered 300 acres, though the deed said 200. The land itself had grown, and at the edge of the new boundary, a single black feather marked the spot where the next room would rise. The Crowbury house didn't burn. It didn't collapse. It didn't vanish. It simply stopped being seen. After 1857, no one in Talladega County would go near the property. Maps began leaving it blank. Deeds listed the land as uninhabitable. By 1870, even the road to the house had overgrown. But the house was still there, and it was still counting. The truth resurfaced in 1932, not in a field or a forest, but in a dusty box at the Alabama State Archives in Montgomery. Archivist Eleanor Whitmore, great-granddaughter of farmer Eli Whitmore, was sorting through sealed records from the 1850s when she found a manila envelope stamped, "Crowbury, do not open, State Security Exemption 70F. Inside lay three things: a hand-drawn map of the property, dated February 1857, showing 26 rooms of black feather, still soft after 75 years, a census page listing 26 occupants, the last name, the reader. Attached was a note typed on Alabama State Police letterhead, dated January 3, 1930, per Executive Order 2911. All records of the Crowbury anomaly are classified. Reason: pattern shows capacity to transfer via witness testimony and written record. Last known expansion, 1924, room count now 28. Warning: do not speak names aloud. Do not count rooms. Do not look at the house even in photographs. The structure responds to attention. This file sealed until 2024. Eleanor didn't believe it. She was a modern woman, trained in science. But that night at 3:11 a.m., her apartment phone rang. No one spoke, only breathing, and faintly a child's voice singing, "Come, ye sinners." She reported it. Her supervisor ordered the box resealed and moved to restricted Vault C, but the damage was done. Sheriff Trammell was found in 1861 in a Texas monastery. His journal ends with, "I hear the walls breathing. They're building my room." Dr. Elias Green never practiced medicine again. He lived in silence until his death in 1890. His will forbade any photographs at his funeral. Census taker, William Gray, changed his name and moved to California. His descendants still refused to visit Alabama. The Crowbury land was sold in 1901 to a timber company, but surveyors reported the property changed size, sometimes 200 acres, sometimes 300. In 1924, a logging crew vanished near the old house site. Their tools were found arranged in a circle, like teacups around a table. No one with the name Crowbury has lived in Alabama since 1860. Descendants changed their names to Crow, Barry, or Silas. Many avoid weddings, funerals, and even family photos. In 1955, a journalist filed a Freedom of Information request for the Crowbury file. The Alabama Attorney General's office denied it, citing ongoing structural risk. The file remained sealed. On March 17, 2024, at 3:11 a.m., the motion sensor in restricted Vault C activated. Security footage showed no human entry, but the camera timestamp glitched, displaying November 2, 1856 for 24 seconds. When reviewed, the sealed box was open. The map was gone. Imagine inheriting the silence, a silence that still walks at 3:11 a.m. You think you're just reading a file. But the moment you pictured the house, you became part of the record, and records are never destroyed. In 2023, a historian uploaded a 1856 sketch of the Crowbury house to a public archive. Within hours, users reported a glitch. The drawing now showed 29 rooms, though the original had 22. The extra rooms appeared only when viewed on screen. Printed copies remained unchanged, and in the newest window, a face watched back. So the next time you hear a story about a house that grows with grief, don't look it up, don't say the names, don't count the rooms, because the Crowbury house doesn't need you to visit, it just needs you to remember. And now, you do. The end.